Here's a look at the stories that we have for you today on our lineup here on The Now. So many people are dealing with student loan debt, but is this new credit card the solution? We're going to get some answers on that. And the former wife of a Columbine survivor who recently overdosed is making sure his message isn't forgotten, how she's hoping that hearing about his struggle will help others. Also, we hear the stories across the country of students getting shamed when they can't pay for their school lunch. We're checking out a new way districts are trying to help.
And thank you, Chris. I'm Amanda Starantino, and thanks for joining us on The Now Indy. A new crime has emerged along with the popularity of vaping. Indiana state excise officers confiscated fake vaping pods from a northern Indiana store. Several boxes of fake vaping pods and starter kits were removed from a store in Cedar Lake following a 2-month investigation. They started investigating after a customer of Zip Food Store complained. Police also confiscated numerous invoices and are working to determine where the fake pods originated. Now, the state excise police superintendent called the hazards associated with counterfeit vaping products a serious public health and safety matter. Vaping-related illnesses are on the rise, with Indiana recording 3 deaths. It's fall break for IPS kids this week, and while that means being free from class, that does not mean being free from hunger. Hunger does not take a break for many students. The only meals they can count on are the ones served at school. So even though kids won't be in class this week, IPS is providing students under 18 free nutritious breakfasts and lunches at various locations around the district. That includes the Bus Stop Cafe, which will be at the Martin Luther King Community Center every day for breakfast from 9 to 10:30.
Everyone needs to eat every day, and that's just one less thing that families have to worry about. These meals are free to anyone 18 years and younger. I think it's important for us to be aware that children really need to eat balanced meals every day. You know, it helps the kids to focus and keeps their energy up, and that's important. They're kids.
Again, this service is free for anyone under the age of 18, regardless of whether they attend an IPS school. For a complete list of the locations and times, look for this story on the IndyChannel.com.
What a great day to be on fall break, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful Monday as you take a look from the Motor Speedway across Turn 2 to downtown Indianapolis. Well, the sunshine will be around first thing in the morning. Then we'll see increasing clouds tomorrow afternoon. I show you the radar. We don't need it tonight or in the morning, but our next chance for showers and thunderstorms, that will arrive late afternoon into the evening hours tomorrow. As you see, a little bounce to the camera gives you an indication we've got a little breeze. Wind will be light tonight. 63 in Indy, 2 degrees warmer in Bloomington. Lafayette is the coolest at 59. We'll all drop into the 40s at 11 o'clock tonight. Dry and cool. Not as cool in the morning. I don't think we'll have frost to start things off. By noon, 63 degrees, 72 late afternoon with that slight chance of rain and a thunderstorm.
Today, the officer investigators say is responsible for the death of a 28-year-old black woman has resigned. Tatiana Jefferson was shot in her own home Saturday in Fort Worth, Texas. A neighbor called police at 2 a.m. because they noticed that Jefferson's front door was open. Body camera video shows the officer did not identify himself before the shooting. Police did release pictures of a weapon that was found in the home. The officer has been identified as Aaron Dean. The family now calling for an independent investigation into that shooting. Well, there's plenty of controversy about today's holiday, Christopher Columbus Day. 2 new states and Washington, D.C. aren't celebrating it this year. Instead, they have changed the name to Indigenous Peoples Day. It's part of a nationwide movement. Maya Rodriguez takes us inside that debate.
At the official National Columbus Day celebration in Washington, D.C., the pomp and circumstance is in full swing. But this year, the city itself isn't part of the party. A few days ago, the city council here voted to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, joining more than 100 cities and half a dozen states around the country that have chosen to honor Native Americans instead of the Italian explorer, whose arrival brought conflict with Indigenous people.
Columbus has a complicated history, but there's not one figure in history that does not have a complex history.
Anita Bevacqua McBride is with the National Italian American American Foundation. They don't want to see Columbus Day disappear and argue there's enough room on the calendar for both days.
I think that's fair, but it doesn't, in our mind, give license to erase the fact of what he did in terms of the exploration of the New World.
I'm very proud of this vest. This is my grandfather's vest, and my great-grandmother made it. That's a very sentimental piece to my family and I.
For Kevin Alice of the National Congress of American Indians, the change to Indigenous Peoples Day has been a long time coming.
We're not trying to rewrite history. We're just trying to make people take the time to look at what real history is and understand that we play an important role of that.
Roles in history still being debated in the present day. In Washington, I'm Maya Rodriguez reporting.
Maya, thank you. Let's get back to our lineup here in the Now. A company that gives out student loans is now pushing a credit card to help you pay down that debt. We're going to get answers on if this is really a good idea.
And Keller, right now.
Welcome back to the Now Indy. If someone tells you they're going to do some shopping at Indiana Premium Outlets, we don't want you to be confused. That's the new name for the outlet mall in Edinburgh, right off I-65. Simon announced the name change today. The GM for Indiana Premium Outlets says the name better reflects the geographic makeup of their visitors. Improvements are currently underway at the mall that are expected to be done for this year's holiday shopping. They include a new archway, food truck plaza, and a playground area.
Civil rights activists are now sounding the alarm on information the Census Bureau is requesting. The Census Bureau is requesting that states hand over driver's license records, which includes citizenship data. The Bureau is also trying to get information on people who receive government assistance. Now, experts say this is a poor way to track citizenship. Civil rights activists say this will ultimately affect just how many congressional seats each state gets, as well as just how electoral maps are drawn. Well, two things you normally don't want to be combining: credit cards and student loans. Amy Taylor's here with some new offers to help pay down college debt.
Most of us know Sallie Mae as the company that gives out student loans. Well, now they're offering new credit cards with incentives to encourage people to pay down that debt. The 3 cards are designed to help build credit. They give cash back rewards that increase if you apply them to student loans or make payments on time. But Greg McBride with Bankrate says beware of being lured in by any rewards.
A 25% bonus on a 1% payout just takes your payout to 1.25%. So it still pales in comparison to other mainstream credit cards. And the bottom line is this: when you're just getting started in credit or credit cards, you shouldn't be focusing on rewards. Instead, you need to focus on establishing the discipline of paying the balance in full every month and not overspending.
McBride says there are other cards that have higher rewards, and he would prefer people focus on saving rather than obsessing about paying down low interest rate student debt.
Because they carry a lot of favorable provisions. If you run into financial difficulty, you can defer or forbear your payments. You can do income-based repayment, and in certain instances, you can even qualify for debt forgiveness. No other form of credit is as accommodating as that.
There are other student credit cards out there as well that offer incentives for good financial habits and even good grades, like Discover.
All right, Annie, thank you. Let's get back to our lineup. And the former wife of a Columbine survivor who recently overdosed is making sure that his message isn't forgotten. How she's hoping that hearing about his struggle will help others.
Only on RTV6 News.
More women are joining the trucking industry, but the numbers are still relatively low. The American Trucking Association says that women make up about 6.5% of the industry. And that number's actually increased dramatically since 2010. Experts say equal pay in trucking seems to be attracting more women to this industry. Pay is usually dependent on experience level and routes, not gender. Young cigarette smokers who use Chantix are more likely to quit smoking earlier than with other tools that are used to quit smoking. This is according to a study by the Medical University of South Carolina. Researchers did say the ability to quit was also tied to marijuana use. Now, we know the physical benefits of a well-balanced diet. In light of Depression Awareness Month, we're going to take a look at some of the importance that it plays when it comes to mental health. An analysis of more than a dozen studies found people with depression who ate more produce, whole grains, nuts, and omega-3 fatty acids like fish were less likely to have recurring symptoms. Now, that's the same advice that we got from Newport Academy, which is a treatment center for young people who are dealing with depression and other issues.
probably the biggest factor in mental health regulation, mood regulation, is how your microbiome, your gut bacteria are, if they're healthy or they're unhealthy.
Now, some simple things to remember. Fiber feeds good gut bacteria. Sugar kills it. Other white foods like processed and refined breads and pasta can trigger poor moods. Now, instead, they say take a rainbow approach to eating, which is a lot of different colored foods, especially dark green vegetables.
A bean has a ton of natural fiber in it and has a lot of protein, and it's a slow carbohydrate, so it doesn't light up your body with a ton of energy. Kind of has a slow release to it.
Now, one other important thing that Jeffrey Zarofsky mentioned is how we eat. Try making at least one meal a day from scratch and eat with friends or family. He says constantly eating in isolation or on the go isn't good for mental health.
Meals together are wired into us from thousands of years ago as a way of creating safety and security.
Now, one other fact, serotonin levels in the brain are what regulates your mood, and it's believed that more than 90% of it is made in your gastrointestinal tract.
More and more of us these days are ordering meals on a restaurant app rather than driving to the restaurant where we pick up our order with no waiting. But what if someone hacks into your order? Consumer reporter John Matarese shows us why some Chipotle customers are very unhappy, so you don't waste your money.
It's a Chipotle mystery that's hitting some customers across the country. Diners are reporting that shortly after ordering on Chipotle's app, someone else started billing phantom orders to them. Jessica Gallenstein recently placed an order through Chipotle's online app, then picked it up.
I just bought a meal for myself, and that was it.
But the next day, her bank sent an alert her debit card was overdrawn.
It was negative amounts of hundreds of dollars that were placed for orders that I didn't give my permission.
She couldn't believe what she saw on her banking app.
So I checked the transaction history and saw that multiple orders were placed through the Chipotle app without my permission.
Luckily, her bank is dropping the charges, but Jessica wants to know who hacked her account.
As for Chipotle, they told me they'd get back to me within 24 to 48 hours. I've called them numerous times and haven't heard any response back at all.
Now, Chipotle admitted to a major data breach a couple of years ago, you might remember, back in 2017. But it insists this newest incident has nothing to do with that case. And it says it's had no new breaches this year. One of our sister stations recently reported on similar complaints all over the country. Chipotle responded saying, the privacy and security of our customers is very important to us. We're among the many retail, hotel, and restaurant companies affected by credential stuffing, in which combinations of usernames and passwords are accessed by third parties. That means Jessica's password may have been stolen somewhere else than used when she activated the app. But
I've used other online ordering apps before, and this has never happened to me.
bottom line, make sure you're not sharing the same password on multiple sites. If it's stolen, a hacker will try it everywhere. So be careful and don't waste your money. I'm John Matarese for RTV6.
And what a beautiful Monday evening, and all was quiet downtown at one of the many parks as you go up Meridian toward the library. Let me show you someone very resourceful. Have you ever seen a squirrel not be able to get something from a bird feeder? They work pretty hard, don't they? And you got to kind of see this here for a second. Yeah, I've never eaten upside down, but I guess it works. It's a necessity.
A little aggressive, but okay.
Temperatures, they're the story this evening. Tomorrow at this time, I think it'll be some showers and thunderstorms. The rain chance goes up probably after 3 or 4. First to the northwest, then into central Indiana. It just opens the door to a very cold shot of air, but it's brief. We're back in the 70s for the weekend. Back to downtown where skies have been clear, but we have a nice little breeze. It's a cool day. We had to recover from those morning lows in the 30s once again. 34 was in Lafayette, Peru, and also Terre Haute. The wind now out of the west, generally 10 miles per hour. Tomorrow what will happen, the wind direction will change. South at 15, grab hold of that warmer air. We'll see gusts to 25. The increase in our chance for thunderstorms comes as we get into the evening hours tomorrow. At this time, not expecting any severe storms. Temperatures a little cooler to the north and west because I think you'll see the clouds roll in sooner, earlier in the afternoon. It'll take a little longer for those to reach the southeast portion of central Indiana. as we get to 4 o'clock. Some showers and thunder showers, they become more numerous along the line from Terre Haute to Indy to Muncie by 7, and then 9 o'clock enhanced and growing to the east. So I think the heaviest rain will be southeast and east of Indianapolis. Some spots could see half an inch to an inch. Chris?
Let's check in on the Now News feed. There's a new study that says there could be a link between men using marijuana and the chances of having a miscarriage. Researchers say if men used marijuana at least once a week, their partners were more likely to miscarry. Now, there was a smaller risk when men smoked or used marijuana less frequently. Well, a warning for parents as Halloween is getting closer. A police department in Pennsylvania putting out these pictures. Officers say they seized these Nerds ropes. The candy had THC in it. Police say because it is so difficult to differentiate between regular safe candy and the ones with THC that parents really need to pay attention. An environmental group in the UK calling for some pretty unique action to tackle climate change. It says that airlines should get rid of their Air Miles programs. It says that these programs push people to fly more than they may normally do.
I was drawn to that, and what started as prescriptions very quickly turned to alcohol, marijuana, illicit narcotics, you name it.
Austin Eubanks was shot at Columbine High School when 2 gunmen killed 12 people. Doctors gave him opioids to deal with the pain. He became addicted. He struggled for years until he cleaned up his life and he became a nationwide speaker on mental health and addiction. Now, while on the surface, it seemed to many people that he won his battle with addiction. 2 months after we spoke with him, he died of an overdose. Now, for the first time, those close to him are talking about the lessons that everyone can learn from his life.
Ready? Okay. My name's Austin Eubanks, and I was a junior at the time of the tragedy and 17 years old.
I met Austin when I was about 17. He was 19 then. We just clicked right away, and we had a lot of great times.
Ami Boakes knows Austin Eubanks the way few people did.
He was not so much as the person he was on TV. He wasn't so serious.
To the nation, he was a Columbine survivor, a dad, a national spokesperson on trauma and addiction. To just about everyone in the country, it seemed he had won his battle with addiction. I talked to Austin in April for a story marking 20 years since Columbine.
I turned to substances to cope. I thought that was the answer for me.
He told us his addiction started with the drugs that doctors gave him to treat his gunshot wounds to his hand and knee. Through years of addiction and darkness, he became a beacon to others.
I think it's really important that not only survivors of trauma, but survivors of addiction speak out and they share their stories, because you never know when your story is going to change the life of somebody else.
But in recent months, Ami suspected he was using again.
I believe there's always a fight. I don't believe that he was always using. I believe that was more recently. There was so much pressure put on him to be this perfect person in the eyes of the world that he didn't feel like he could actually go and get the treatment when he did go back to it.
Austin wasn't able to fully escape that darkness. In May, he was found dead in his home, the victim of an overdose.
I don't think addiction is something you can just stop struggling with one day. It's always a work in progress.
Ami knows the progress in the fight against the opioid crisis is too late for Austin, but she believes his life, all of it, will still help others.
His story and the power behind Columbine really put him front and center of the opioid addiction. He brought a complete level of awareness and helped so many people. He helped them shape their lives, and it just brought me tears of joy.
And finally in our lineup today, we hear the stories across the country of students getting shamed when they can't pay for their school lunch. We're checking out the new way districts are trying to help.